We've touched on this a little bit. I don't know if we've gone into great detail on it, but I think it's worth bringing up because Maryland's offense has had some explosive, moments for sure. And Taulia Tagovailoa is a really good quarterback. I don't know that I think of him as an elite quarterback, but he is very, very good. And he poses a big challenge. He is, in my opinion, he's one of the three best quarterbacks in the Big Ten. His numbers have been great, and he's performed fine over the years against good competition, and he's disposed of bad teams. He's done a good job. For whatever reason, Maryland hasn't played very well in Columbus the last few times they've come here. They've given Ohio State good games when the Buckeyes have gone to College Park, but not so much when they've come to Central Ohio. Last three scores were 66-17, 73-14, and 62-14. I don't know that I really anticipate this week to go quite like that, even if just because it's hard to score that many points anyways with the clock rules. I think this has been a lower scoring year in college football in general. But Ohio State's defense is far and away the best defense Maryland has seen so far. And the overarching, bugaboo that Ohio State fans kept coming back to when watching this team the last couple of years was, hey, you got to stop giving up the big play, right? Like, you compete so hard and so well for good chunks of the game, and then too many of these light switch moments where these game-changing plays just wreck you. And I think the biggest thing that Ohio State's defense deserves credit for this year is basically taking that out of the equation. Second in the country this year in allowing only 9 plays that have gone 20 yards or more. Furthermore, against Michigan and Georgia last year, the Buckeyes gave up 8 plays of 40 yards or more, and they have not allowed a single one this year in 4 games of 40 yards or more, which we've alluded to as a product of the way, in some capacity, of the way that Jim Knowles is calling the defense. So huge strides in that regard, and I think that's going to be a big problem for Maryland because I don't know if they have the horses to like grind one out against Ohio State.
It doesn't match up really well for Maryland there. And you go back to those stats, man. Talk about making a weakness like not only just manageable, make it a strength. Like, holy cow, Ohio State does not give up the big play, and it's so big, man. It's like, all right, hey, let's say go back to the Notre Dame game, a perfect scenario, right? Notre Dame goes for it on 4th down, gives it up, and then gives a huge, long, big play touchdown run. And that's such a momentum swing. Well, on Ohio State's side, there's a couple times, right? Ohio State turned it over, and they just shut it right down. Just shut it down. And when you have a defense that just closes the door at all times, it's like, all right, we're totally fine. And when you match this up against Maryland, it's not great for the Terrapins, right? They're built on the big play. We talked about it yesterday. They're built on quick scores and coming out of the gates early. And one of the things is when you're preparing for a game, you really try to script up, hey, where can we take advantages? Where can we take advantage of this defense? And you look at Ohio State's defense, and they're really there's nowhere you could go position by position and be like, all right, Ohio State advantage here, advantage here, advantage here. And that's not new. That's not unique to the Buckeyes, but what is unique is that this year they're all playing like it, and they're all playing like the best team and like the best unit in the country at all times. There's no big breakdowns. There's no missed tackles. There's no DBs falling in coverage. There's none of that. There's no mistakes. And I don't really care who the competition is when a whole year goes by and that's your biggest bugaboo is the big play, and you're able to just nip it and kill it. It's in their head. We're 6 weeks into this thing. Big plays aren't a part of our defense anymore. They're just not. And that's just the way, that's the mindset now. So when you're Maryland, you're looking at it like, all right, we had 4 huge touchdowns last week against Indiana. You go back against Michigan State, they had a handful of big touchdowns there. You take those out of the equation against the Buckeyes, and you're fighting in a really uphill battle, man. And it's straight uphill because, the Buckeyes really just are not going to surrender the big play.
Yeah. And, I think more than anything, just to echo what you're saying there, it just grinds on you mentally. Mm-hmm. And in a game where it's such a physical game, literally, but you're trying to impose your will on your opponent. And Ohio State's done a really good job of mentally breaking down Indiana, Youngstown State, Western Kentucky, and ultimately they broke down Notre Dame just enough. Historically, that's what Ohio State's done. Now, it doesn't work every single time. They lose from time to time. But it's pretty hard to come into the Horseshoe with 105,000 people that want you to lose by 50. And you got to bring it for 60 minutes, especially when you stumble. It's hard to dust yourself off and figure it out. It takes a special effort. And that's why most teams don't win when they come to Columbus. But
yeah, and think about it too, man. Think about it like, all right, let's say Ohio State comes out in the first quarter, Maryland hits a big one, okay? They're not getting another one, and 7 points isn't beating you on Saturday. They may get a big play or big completion, get them into scoring territory. They may even hit one big for a touchdown. But you better believe it's not happening 2 or even 3 times. So like that is a big deal. And then to your point too, and this goes back to what you said, just Maryland's struggles in Columbus, like big plays take the wind out of the sails of a stadium. But when you're historically the last 3 times you're in there, you're getting outscored by like 160 points. Like that is in your head too. It's like, oh my gosh, you're backed up in the student section. It's red everywhere. You're looking at that block O in the middle of the field, man, and you're third and 9 because you went incomplete. And that's tough, man. That's a tough deal. I guess 2 incompletes would be 3rd and 10, but you know what I mean? Like it's really hard to be back, like to be in that environment for 60 straight minutes. And that's why you see this stuff when you're built like that. And it's, coaches talk about it often, what travels, that type of offense and that type of, explosiveness sometimes does not travel. And you're going to see it Saturday. You'll see how they match up. If they can hang early, it may be tough, but in my opinion, I don't think it's going to be something that they're able to do.
I kind of envision this game maybe a little bit like, the first quarter and a half that we saw from Michigan and Rutgers, where Rutgers was competitive. They were in it until they weren't, right? I kind of anticipate that this could look like that for a little while. It may on the scoreboard look like, hey, this is a really good game. And maybe there's some plays on the field that make you think like, yeah, it's a really good game. But I also think Ohio State's a nearly 20-point favorite for a reason, because they are supposed to be the substantially better team. And I think they're going to play like it on Saturday. Can't wait to see how it all turns out. Of course, we've got plenty of coverage coming for you all weekend long on BuckeyesNow.com. Your written home for all your latest Ohio State news and information. Of course, we're with Fan Nation, the Fan Nation Network, and the Sports Illustrated Media Group. For Anthony Moeglin, I'm Brendan Gulick. Thanks for joining us for a little bit tonight. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. We continue to bring you video coverage just like this all season long to give you all the latest on the Bucks. Can't wait to see you down in the Horseshoe Saturday afternoon as Ohio State finally gets back on the field.